The Line 6 HX Stomp. Let's check it out. So I saw recently that the HX Stomp was out and available, so I decided to buy one. I got it from a major retailer that's got a really great 45-day return policy, and I'm trying it out to see if it's really going to work for me. On this video, I'll do a quick review of features and some sounds, and then I'd like to share with you some thoughts about my current thinking on the pedal. So, first up, this is a unit that Line 6 is advertising as a unit for amp modeling guys. It's obviously a compact version of some of the Helix technology. There is also the HX Effects unit, which is actually more kind of targeted for players that are using an amp and a pedal board, and they want to throw in that HX Effects to kind of be the brain of their pedal board. This one's a little bit different. It can sort of be the brain, but it is a smaller form factor, and it's much more focused at the amp models and cabs in addition to the effects. All right, so what's it got on it? Well, it's got the usual inputs and outputs, right? It's got inputs for your guitar, and it's got stereo outs, so cool there. It's got a stereo effects send and return, which is critical for me because I need that effects send and return to run from the amp modeling portion of the HX Stomp, sorry, I can't say that too well, out to the rest of my pedals and then back in. So I want the HX Stomp to kind of control everything, right? So that's really important. There's MIDI in and MIDI out / through, so that's cool. There's a USB port, so you can plug this bad boy into your computer to update the firmware, and then also when you've got it connected via USB, you can use the Line 6 Helix Editor. And there's also the usual jack that you would expect for an expression pedal, and you can even add 2 additional control switches if you need more switching capability than the 3 built-in switches. So instead of trying to walk you through all the parameters, of which there are literally hundreds, I thought I would just kind of break down a patch that I have created. So here's the sound of the patch. Okay, so you can hear that it's kind of a crunchy sound. There's some modulation going on, there's delay, and there's reverb. So how did I get this patch? How do you set up a patch in the HX Stomp? Basically, you're going to put the HX Stomp into view mode, and that will show you 6 effects blocks. So that's one thing to note. This is not the Helix, you know, the big Helix. This is a kind of a stripped down version in some ways. And one of those ways is you only get 6 effects blocks. So if you're like me and you use a lot of effects, you're definitely going to want to make use of the effects send and return for a full grouping of effects if you've got complex signal chains. So in this particular patch, I've got in the effects block number 1, I actually have a compressor. Right now it's turned off, and it's really easy to turn it on and off. You just kind of point to it, and you can turn it on and off with the knob at the top. Okay, so compressor. There are tons of compressors in here. I think it's all the different options of the big Helix, so that's pretty cool. And then in my next effects block, I've got an amp model. And the HX Stomp allows you to set up an amp model in 2 different ways. One is you can select an amp and a speaker combination, so you can get amp and speaker in one effects block. So as you would expect, the HX Stomp has the usual array of Fender style, Marshall style, dual rectifier style, Vox style, all kinds of styles. There's a lot of different amp models. That's cool, but in my 11 rack, I use an amp model and I use a speaker cabinet that doesn't match the amp model. I'm a big fan of the Fender Vibrolux Reverb amp model paired with a Marshall 4x12 amp cabinet, specifically the 25-watt greenback on the 11 rack. I really like that combination. So the HX Stomp does allow you to have the second option where you can select the amp model and the speaker cabinet separately. Now, it does take up 2 of your 6 effects blocks. In my amp model block, I've got a US double vibe. So it's the Vibrolux Reverb that's got that kind of sound that I'm looking for, so that's cool. But right now, I'm using a 2x12 Bluebell speaker cabinet type. That sounds pretty good. I like that combination. Let me turn off some of the other effects here so you can hear it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. And as you would expect, the amp models have the usual things like, you know, treble, middle, bass, presence, that type of thing. So they're very flexible. They're very configurable, and there's a lot of different tones. So that's the amp modeling part. And for me and my particular use of this pedal or any pedal like it, the amp model and cab is critical. I've got to be able to get 1 or 2 combinations that I really like. And I would suggest for anybody interested in this pedal, this is where you really need to kind of hone in and make sure that the HX Stomp is able to get a kind of tone, an amp model and speaker cabinet tone that you like, that fits your particular style, of music, your playing style, and kind of the vision you have for your guitar tone. Next up, I've got a chorus set up, and again, because the HX Stomp has, I think, all of the chorus and modulation type effects that the big Helix has, there's a lot of options here. So I have selected the Trinity Chorus, which is a tri-chorus type of chorus pedal, and I've assigned it to one of the switches. So the blue switch there on the left turns the chorus on and off. Here's what it sounds like on. So it's very flexible. Again, if you've hung out here a lot, you'll know that I don't use chorus a ton. So I tend to like more subtle types of choruses. There's some decent sounds in here. And if you do like heavily chorused tones, there's definitely some chorus options for you. Next up is the delay. And again, there are several different options, both in mono and stereo. I've selected one of the stereo delay types, and it's called Multi-Tap 4. Is particle reverb part of HX Stomp? And the answer is yes, it is. And it's a fine sounding reverb. It's definitely a reverb that allows you to create some really nice ambient patches. And again, here's what everything sounds like together. Cool. I could definitely do something with that. Right now, the way I've got my guitar plugged into the HX Stomp is obviously cable guitar directly to my Morley Little Alligator volume pedal and then into the HX Stomp. There is a built-in volume pedal, and you can map the expression pedal, if you have one, plug it into the HX Stomp, and you can map it to the volume pedal block and just use that internally if you wish. The advantage there is that you can put the volume pedal at any point in the signal chain, wherever it makes sense and wherever you like the tone. One of the other things that's nice about this pedal is that in terms of the input for the guitar, it does have adjustable impedance. So you can use that setting to help you imitate or model different amps that have different impedance levels in their inputs. There's also an automatic setting, which I've currently got engaged, that will just kind of select the best match for your guitar. And that actually is also very helpful if you want to put a couple of effects in front of the HX Stomp and just kind of plug your guitar into the effects directly. Maybe you've got a compressor that you really like, you love, and you just can't live without it. You can go ahead and plug that in and then run that into the guitar input of the HX Stomp, and that actually works pretty well in my tests. So once again, the big question, the critical question for me is, does the HX Stomp have amp models and speaker cabinet combinations that I like well enough to give it a spot on my pedal board? So I've turned all the effects off, and I'd just like you to listen to the current setting that I have, the Vibrolux amp model plus the 2x12 Blue Bell speaker cabinet. Here's what it sounds like just by itself. No, it's not a bad sound, and it cleans up. So kind of cool. You can hear a little bit of speaker breakup. Yeah, that's cool. If you use the editor, I don't think I've seen it in the Stomp itself, the HX Stomp itself. I might have missed it, but if you use the editor, you can even adjust things like sag, which is the response of the rectifier tube in a real tube amp to signals coming into the amp, which is kind of cool. So you can tune it. Now, is this good enough for me? I am still trying to figure that out. I think probably intrinsically, that's not a bad sound, but I need to decide if it's right for me. Let me just dial up one or two other amp models real quick so you can hear just a couple of examples. Here's a twin reverb. Here's a Rollin Jazz chorus model. That actually is pretty nice. Let me turn the effects on here, at least some of them, so you can hear it a little more ambient-ish. And let me just play you one other one real quick. This is the Cali Rectifier. Not fire, but fire, like, you know, burning fire. So, but you can guess what it is. All right, and I've still got that Bluebell 2x12 cabinet kind of lined up. I'd probably replace that with like a 4x12 or something like that, but you get the idea. So time will tell if this is the right choice for me. Now, I do have a couple of more videos posting here. Next video is with another unit that I've purchased and I'm trying out on a 45-day trial basis, and it is the Headrush gig board. So stay tuned for a review of that, and then after I review that pedal or kind of talk about it individually, I'm going to post a video where I put these two head to head, because I think what it's going to come down to is that I'm either going to keep the Line 6 or the head rush. We'll see which one. So if you haven't already done so, subscribe to Chords of Orion, hit the bell notification so you're notified of the gig board and the shootout videos, and I will see all of you on the next video.